World building of Adventure Time is so rich that oftentimes the staff of the show can just add a new character out of seemingly nowhere and make them incredibly important to the actual lore and characterization of the entire series as a whole. They could even get into the themes of what it means to be someone living in this world, and I think one of the greatest examples of this is Shoko. Now, Shoko is a character that only appears in one episode as her actual self. For the rest of her appearances, it's either cameos or creepy apparition versions of her, and they have no dialogue, obviously. The showrunners could have actually done a lot more with her character as a whole. I wanted to make a video talking about why I think this character is so compelling, and the many reasons why. And the first thing I wanted to do, obviously, is talk about why I think she is so underutilized. Shoko is just another person similar to Finn. Bad circumstances, no parents, relying on PB as a leader. PB also makes Shoko and Finn both mechanical arms. There's a lot of interesting through lines here that I think is really, really cool, but I feel as though Shoko is just like Finn, young, impressionable, and alone in the world. Now, unlike Finn, who had Jake, someone who could actually communicate with him, Shoko didn't really have that. In season 1, we see an episode called The City of Thieves, and Finn obviously gets corrupted by the city, and I feel as though Shoko is a great parallel to what Finn could have been had he actually been corrupted by the city. Of course, we're obviously going to relate her to Finn because she was Finn, but having her have her own unique motivations, having her actually be pretty intelligent, having her manipulate people to get what she wants versus Finn being very honest shows just how different these two can be while also being so similar at the same time. With Shoko being so far in the past and unrelated to a lot of the things happening in our present reality in the story, it could have been really cool to follow her journey as it continued onward and onward through characters like PB, Marcy, and even the Ice King. But before I get into that, I just want to say thank you guys so much. We just hit 8,500 subs, only 1,500 away from 10,000. So if you guys want to help us get there faster and help big number go up, it would mean a lot. There's a significant percentage of you guys that are not subscribed. You've probably heard that a lot from other channels, but hey, if you guys want to help support the channel, it really would mean a lot. And if you want more brain rot content like this, that helps too. Shoko is a character that is so filled with potential for what she could have done in the world and so many other things, and that's why her dying so young is so tragic. She's just a teenager when we meet her in the first episode, and then she dies in that same first episode. So it goes to show characters like this can make a huge impact on the way we see the story. Shoko's first actual appearance, however, is through a ghostly apparition form that many people remember. Dare I say, this is one of the most iconic moments / visual imagery of Adventure Time. So them continuing to bring this back was an incredibly smart decision, actually showcasing how this creepy ghost girl was a human, and not just was a human, was also our main character, was downright genius. Bringing Shoko into the actual fold of the story and having her arc finalized with not only Finn realizing that things aren't as creepy as they could be, but also that PB is not who she says she is, was also really great because both of them were obviously very affected by PB as they lived. Shoko obviously showcases that she is missing an arm before Finn actually loses his arm, but the only other version of Finn we see with that missing arm is the Farm World Finn. Shoko and Farm World Finn obviously have that sort of affinity with radiation and the atomic bomb that the Lich came from. This sort of destruction is inevitable in a sense, which is really cool because these two are obviously meant to be the thing that's supposed to combat the Lich and the destruction the Lich causes. Having them be affected by it directly is really, really compelling. Farmworld Finn and Shoko are definitely more gray characters than the actual Finn we follow in the story. He's a lot more simple-minded in the way that he is always for good. So I think that angle of the radiation turning Shoko into the demonic monster that Finn sees all the time adds this sense of tragedy to her because it turns something that's so simple and creepy into something with more layers. We see this a lot in Adventure Time, obviously. I also think that the world that she lives in, the world of Ooh that is seemingly different, is also rather similar to Farm World Finn's world. The Bath Boy gang could be a parallel to the Destiny gang in Farm World. They both live in these seemingly lavish buildings that are high above everyone else, but unlike Farmworld Finn, who obviously fought against the Destiny gang, Shoko is willingly following these guys. It's sort of like diverging paths. Eventually, when you keep diverging, you're not going to know where entirely they split off from in the first place, because those little interactions can mean so much in the long run. Fionna and Cake literally even talks about that exact mindset. When something starts to differentiate too far, it becomes completely and entirely different from the origin, which is why I said earlier that I feel as though Shoko could have been a really unique and interesting way of viewing the world of Ooh, not just because of the time period, but because of the mentality first and foremost. Yes, they're both reincarnations of the comet that was supposed to be a source of good, but good is very subjective. You could be good while also doing things that are not seemingly good to everyone. Because Shoko obviously felt a sense of remorse after finally feeling that attachment to someone and feeling some sort of reason for living as a whole. With Princess Bubblegum, her snatching away the amulet just to make some money made her feel terrible. And that is the reason she is lingering around all this time, trying to convince Finn to do something. And what is it that he does at the end of the day? Returns the amulet to PB. The last thing I do want to bring up is I feel as though Shoko had a lot of potential in the actual series, but wasn't fully carried out. Now, obviously, they reference Shoko in the finale of the original series, but they don't really do anything more with it outside of the vaults. There's this long absence of Shoko throughout the series, even though Shoko should, in my opinion, have a lot of impacts. Shoko is a Finn-esque character, so it makes sense that Shoko has impact in the story. However, Shoko dying so young obviously could add to that lack of impact, but there's one reason in particular why I feel as though the writers had plans to make Shoko more relevant in the story, and that comes from the episode Skywitch. Now, Skywitch, of course, banger episode, a bubbling classic. But Skywitch also introduces Maja, a very, very important character when it comes to the actual stakes of the ending. But in Maja's house, there are multiple paintings of Shoko's ghostly form, and that made me wonder, obviously because Maja and Shoko seemingly have some connection here. However, I do think that some of the stuff could be developed upon if they decide to continue making more stuff for this series. Ever since the Adventure Time brain rot literally hit me like a truck, I've been thinking a lot about the possibilities of what the series could do in the future, since many of the people who have worked on Fionna and Cake think there's a lot of potential for continuing the universe further and further. I think the two most obvious ones are either an Adventure Time 1000+ sequel series following Shermie and Beth, with them literally being in the finale of Fionna and Cake, or the ever so wanted Simon and Marcy series, which would be just a trauma bomb through and through. But I was thinking, if there was some other possibility, what would I want for an Adventure Time show? And I felt as though Shoko's episode, yes, singular episode, could lead to a great insight into how the world of Ooh actually was at the time. Through this lens of Shoko, we're going to be able to see characters that we know very, very well, like PB, Marcy, and Ice King, but we're also going to see the world in a state that is way before anything inherently connected to the actual series, which I think makes it a perfect spot to place a series if they wanted to continue it in that direction. Instead of pushing forward into the story, they could easily go back and add a bunch of cool stuff that wouldn't really interact that much, and with all the hindsight that they have with the actual show, they could do a bunch of really cool stuff in my opinion. But yeah, I thought Shoko was just very interesting as a whole, and I felt as though she was very underutilized in the show, honestly. With how much she was built up through the idea of the vaults and the creepy ghost, obviously, I felt as though they could have used Shoko a lot more and given us more insights into who PB was, who Marcy was, and seeing how far along Ice King was. I think this idea could be pretty cool, but I'm wondering, what do you all think? Let me know down below, and let me know what your idea for a crazy spin-off, sequel, whatever is, because I think this type of speculation is always fun to do, so let me know down below. That's going to be it from me. Hopefully you take care, and have a good one.